Here's a scenario. So we have someone named Walter. His income is $2,000 a month. His expenses is $1,900 a month. His cash flow is $100. We also have another person named Kenny. And his income, expenses, his cash flow is the same. They both work at Walmart. Kenny does not believe in credit cards. He's been binge watching Dave Ramsey content, which, I agree with what some of Dave Ramsey says. So he does not have credit cards. He doesn't believe in credit cards. Walter, on the other hand, does. But let's start with Kenny real quick. Kenny gets paid in January. His check is for $2,000. And he uses that to pay expenses, which is $1,900. He has $100 left and he puts that up in a savings account. Kenny gets paid again in February. He gets paid $2,000. He pays his expenses. And he's not making a whole lot of money, but he's pretty responsible. And so he saves up another $100. And so he has now $200. Good boy, Kenny. In March, the third month, an emergency situation happens. $600 he has to come out of. So now Kenny only has $1,400. Now remember, his expenses is $1,900. So that means after he then paid for the emergency, he had to get something fixed on his car and it cost him $600. He got to go to work. So he had to pay it. It wasn't like, he could not pay it. Well, now he only has $1,400. So he needs $500 so he can pay his expenses, his regular expenses outside of this emergency. Oh, luckily, he already has $200 saved up. So now all he needs is $300 to pay the rest of his expenses. He works at Walmart's, but he picks up some type of side hustle, or maybe he worked overtime. However he got the money, he ended up getting that $300. So now he's back on track. No debt, but no savings either, because he used part of that savings for this emergency. So everything is clear, no debt, but no savings, no anything. So April hits, he gets paid, he pays his expenses. And so we're going to kind of cross this out because this right here doesn't apply to Kenny. So wash, rinse, and repeat. He puts up $100. He gets paid $200 again, no emergencies, and he puts up $100, which will equal $200. And let's just theoretically say an emergency hits yet again. So now again, he has to come up with $500. He already got $200 saved. So all he needs is $300. And again, he helps his uncle move furniture. His uncle pays him $300. So now he's able to pay his expenses. Right? So he's again in the clear, not in debt, but nothing saved. Now he would be in debt if he couldn't come up with this $300. and he'll be all screwed up and probably having to borrow money and this, that, and the fifth. All right, so that's Kenny's scenario. So we're gonna move on to Walter's scenario. So now we're gonna start with Walter. So he has $2,000 worth of credit. Maybe it's one credit card, maybe it's two credit cards, that's $1,000 a piece. But however he got this credit, he has $2,000 worth of credit in the credit cards. So Walter decides, you know what? I'm gonna pay all of my expenses with my credit card. So he uses his credit card to pay all of his expenses. So that leaves him with $2,000 in cash. So he puts this in his sock drawer. But he takes $100 out of his $2,000, which is going to leave him $1,900, and he puts it in a savings account or investment account, and he puts up $100, so he's left with $1,900. Okay. When he gets paid again, he pays off his credit card. He replenished the card back to $2,000. And so with the $2,000 on his credit card, he does it again. He pays all of his expenses. And he has the type of rent where he can pay with his credit card. Or he knows how to turn his credit to cash. So that's already figured out with Walter. And so he actually puts up an extra $100, which will equate to $200 for the month of February. So everything is going pretty smooth. Now, mind you, when he did it this way, he already has, an emergency fund in a sense already saved up, but this is not really the real, savings. This is kind of like a credit card backup money. In March, his check drops. He replenished it back to $2,000, but an emergency hits. He uses his credit card to pay off the emergency. So now he only has $1,400, and to be able to pay his expenses, which is $19,000, he needs $500. Well, where's he gonna get that $500 from? He's going to borrow it from himself because he got $1,900 right here. So he's gonna pull the $500 from the $1,900. And that's how he's going to be able to pay all his expenses. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to put up anything extra. And so since he took about $500 out of that, he's left with only $1,400 in cash. But again, he already has an emergency fund already in a sense. So he doesn't have to really build up an emergency fund. So everything is clear, but he still does have a little bit of money saved up. Only $200, not a lot, but he didn't have to touch that. And he still got $1,400 in his sock drawer. April hits, his check comes, he pays off any, balance, and he replenishes his credit card back to $2,000. So he pays all his expenses with the $2,000 worth of credit. He doesn't save, he doesn't put anything up, so he still has $200 to his name. May hit the same thing. He he gets his check, he puts it on his credit card, he replenishes the credit card, and he decides to actually put $100 in a savings account or an investment account. And here we go again. The month of June, we see what happens. $600 emergency. Well, again, he needs to figure out. So now his $2,000 worth of credit is down to $1,400, but his expenses is $500. He got to find a way to get this $500. So he borrows from himself yet again, so he can pay. I think that would be $900. Took me. Okay, so now he's able to pay everything he borrowed from himself, and he's able to pay all his expenses. But he still only has $300. He didn't, put anything on that. His next check drops and he replenishes his credit card. And he doesn't really save or anything like that. And so he still only has $300 to his name. August, check drops. He puts it into his credit card. He pays off his credit card. His credit card balance is back at $2,000. He actually has a little extra money that he put into his savings account. And now he has $400. Okay, so we're going to mess with the numbers a little. And I think you kind of get the point here. Maybe this emergency might not even be $600. It might be $100, okay? Again, he replenishes his credit card. You can kind of play around with the numbers, but if it stayed at $600 emergencies every 3 months, he would still ultimately be able to slowly still have money on the side. But emergencies, they're probably going to be different amounts. Or he also could do like Kenny and work extra here and there, make a quick $300 doing this and that. And so if he does that, maybe once every 4 months or something like that, he makes an extra $300. He makes an extra $200. Maybe he drives for Lyft too. So with all that being said, I think you kind of got the scenario. But if you kind of want to keep on going, this is what the numbers would look like if in a year's time he kept on having these emergencies. And he would be at around $500 if he doesn't add on to his expenses. So let me know if the numbers make sense. Again, this is just kind of like a template. Again, he could have worked overtime. He could have done little extra stuff on the side. But for the first year, he shouldn't have to do too much extra in terms of being able to have a little bit of savings. And again, this is like a very low amount, I understand. But if he made, let's say, $5,000, and let's just say his cash flow was, I don't know, $300. You can kind of play with the numbers. So let me know what you think. Is this a realistic scenario? And then the way he's doing it, he's paying off his credit card every month to replenish it. And he's still slowly but surely having money that he can save on the side. If you don't agree with this method, then you can also write your opinion down and give me some suggestions on how to better perfect this. But I think this is a good situation to be in for a year. I think this is a good scenario, especially for those that probably are earning minimum wage. But again, if you're making more, you can kind of like adjust the numbers and your expenses and your cash flow and even your credit card limit. Maybe your credit card limit is 8,000 or 10,000. And so you can play around with the numbers, but this is like a template of what you can do with credit versus not having any credit at all.